good morning and good afternoon to those of you in European time zone, and to those in, I guess it's very late evening in JPAC. So today's database cloud service office hours is entitled "Spreadsheets Aren't Multi-User Databases," and we'll talk to you about how to easily transform them into beautiful database-powered applications. Our special guest is Joel Kallman. He's a Senior Director in Product Management at Oracle. He'll introduce himself in a little bit more detail once I hand the mic over to him. And my name is Matthew O'Keefe. I'm a Vice President and Corporate Technologist in Outbound Product Management at Oracle. If you've been attending these for more than a few months, you're aware that Tammy Bednar used to run them. So Tammy handed the reins to me and asked me to drive the content and what we do here going forward, but she'll still be involved. So we just want to point out, you can put questions into the Q&A chat, and we encourage you to do that. If the question's pretty relevant to the ongoing discussion that Joel is, or the issue that Joel is addressing at that moment, I'll interrupt him and ask him to answer it. Otherwise, I'll save them till the end. But please ask questions. We will store this recording of this presentation once it's completed in a couple days, and you can find these at this particular site. And then basically, again, thanks for attending, and now I will hand it over to Joel Kallman.
All right, thanks, Matthew. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone, for attending. I do notice a couple people from the Apex Posse in the list of participants. So thanks, everyone, for joining. This is the longest title I've ever had. Spreadsheets aren't multi-user databases. Easily transform them to beautiful database-powered apps. What I do like is that most of you who are attending today may not be typically exposed to Apex, and hopefully you get something useful from today. As Matthew said, my name is Joel Kallman. I'm the Senior Director of Software Development at Oracle. I'm in the database division, and I've been at Oracle since 1996. And Apex is something that my Senior Vice President, Michael Hitchwa, and I started back in 1999, and we've been leading the development and product management of it since that time. Spreadsheets are back in the news, and there often are misuses of these single user applications. Very often people like to use these as multi-user databases. And I'm going to give a self-deprecating example of this. And this is a true customer story. And there was a manager at this customer who for now will remain unnamed, where they needed to order 4 MacBook Pros, these little laptops, for their employees. And I'm running on a MacBook Pro right now. And even though this customer had they were a large corporation and they had basically a corporate procurement system, the needs of this division were so specific that they had a custom process. And this custom process was actually a spreadsheet. So instead of going to this corporate procurement system, this manager had to fill out a row of this spreadsheet and send it back. And on the spreadsheet as well, the manager chose from a pick list and said, okay, 4 MacBook Pros with Retina display, send this into procurement. And a few months later, this manager got a call from procurement saying, hey, your 4 Mac Pros have arrived. Where would you like these shipped? And for those who are a Mac fanboys like me, you'll know that a Mac Pro is this big black cylinder. It's not a laptop. It's not something that easily fits in an overhead bin on an airplane, doesn't travel well. You need a keyboard and a monitor. And this manager said, clearly not what I ordered. I ordered MacBook Pros, not Mac Pros. I chose them from the select list. Please take them back. Don't want them. And this manager was told They are custom order. You must accept delivery of them. And these machines are $4,000 a piece times 4, and that's a $16,000 mistake.
Ooh.
And the tragic thing here is the company is Oracle and the manager was me. And I'm one employee out of 132,000 employees at Oracle. And this isn't a mistake that I had. It's a mistake that somebody took the spreadsheet, keyed it into another system. $16,000 mistake. So how many times is this happening at my company, let alone every other enterprise on the planet? And this is a case where people attempt to use spreadsheets as multi-user databases, and there are 1,000 things wrong with these types of solutions. What's one silver lining of using spreadsheets as multi-user databases? Well, this is my office back when we were allowed to go to the office, and I got a free Mac Pro. I say free, an extra Mac Pro that someone else paid for. So I'm not anti-spreadsheet, but very often, especially lines of business, they are asked to build information management solutions, and where an application would be most appropriate, but they neither have the skill nor the time nor the money to build a full stack solution. So what typically do lines of business use? They use spreadsheets, right? They're going to solve the problem one way or another. And the problem with using spreadsheets as a multi-user database is there's no single point of truth. Where's the most accurate information? Who has the latest spreadsheet attachment? The access to this data is not secured. You have no idea who read it or who has distributed this information. In most cases, this typically requires some type of client software. Even, I guess really even today, smartphones can read spreadsheets, but it requires some software to read this information. It's utterly an inefficient use of resources. And when I say this, I really mean human resources, because I've been a recipient of spreadsheets in Oracle where one person will send a spreadsheet to 10 people, and they'll ask you to fill out, I don't know, rows 10 through 12. And all this information has to go back to a person who they then coalesce it. And what a waste of time. And this is the most important thing. And that is that there is all this information here, and you are completely underutilizing the value of this data, the value of this information. And that's really the most tragic loss in this. So let's turn this now to something called Apex or Application Express, about what it is. And I promise you, I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death. I'm going to give you a couple demonstrations today, okay? So Apex is a low-code application development framework from Oracle. And by low-code, we mean we're not opening up an editor and writing our first line of code to begin our application. In fact, it is a browser-based development and deployment environment to build applications. And it enables you to build applications that look great on the desktop or look great on a mobile web device, so your smartphone, tablet, what have you. Very often, back office business processes are data-driven, and people want to build applications to beautifully visualize this information as well as maintain it with a report and form. Let me actually edit this data as well. And it is trivial to build applications that enable you to manage this information. And lastly, hopefully this is relevant to everyone on this call, that if you know a little bit of SQL, you can flourish in Apex. And really, anything that you can express in SQL, you can capitalize in Apex. As my Senior Vice President Michael Hitchus said last week, it enables you to express yourself using SQL in a business context. And I think that that's how you should think of Apex. I often believe that the Oracle database is undersold. And even though we talk about it as a converged database, a converged data platform, where I think the database is undersold is it in being an application development platform. Because you don't just store data, you actually want to do something with it. You want to aggregate it or sort it or do calculations on it. For example, when it comes to spatial data management, sure, I can take 2 points and I can geocode these and I can store these in an Oracle database, but it only becomes relevant when I actually want to do something with it. So define a polygon and find the points within that polygon, or find a point on a map and within a 50-kilometer radius, find all the points within the radius. So actually to do something with that, and in the case of the Oracle database, I can do this all using native SQL. For those of you who've never heard of Apex or are curious about where you can get it, Apex is available everywhere. So since 2004, when we began first as Oracle HTMLDB, and then since renamed to Oracle Application Express or Apex, it's been a fully supported feature of Oracle database. So all editions, all versions, you're able to use Apex as part of your database license. But it's also available in every database cloud service. So Exadata cloud service, database cloud service, autonomous database. It's even available from other cloud providers. And what's great about this is that you can easily build an application in one environment and deploy in another. Or better yet, you could run your applications on the cloud, change your mind tomorrow and say, you know what, we're better suited to run this on premises, and you're able to do exactly that. So wherever there's an Oracle database, you can run Apex. And I should also point out, because most people aren't aware of this, that there are a number of places where you can use Oracle database and hence Apex 1,000% for free. So there's the on-premises version of Oracle database called XE or Express Edition. And there have been numerous customers who have built Apex solutions on XE and deployed them 100% free. And there's also the Oracle Cloud free tier and the always free autonomous database, where you can also build and deploy Apex applications on autonomous database for free. And I'll give a number of examples of this where customers and partners have done exactly that.
Joel, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
It's free even in the context of commercial use of the Apex application?
In what context?
So if I am a developer and I, as you said, use Apex and develop it on XE, can I commercialize that Apex application, or can I can at least use it internally or just amongst? Are there any limitations on the use of whatever application you develop on Apex by the free tier or XE?
There are effectively no limitations. The XE database,
wow,
even outside of the Apex context, is free to develop, free to deploy, free to distribute. And you could build an Apex application on XE and sell it. There was a customer of ours. He wrote believe it or not, a hospital administration system. This was a small a Caribbean country, but he built a hospital administration system on Apex on XE. There's another partner of ours where they have built effectively an HR system, and they run this HR system in Apex on licensed databases for some larger customers, and smaller customers they deploy locally on XE 100% free.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And really, same thing applies to the free autonomous database, that there are no limitations in how you can use that. Obviously, in both of these cases, they are not supported by Oracle, so you can't call up Oracle support and say, my free autonomous database, I don't know, needs some support with it. They are supported via social media platforms, community discussion forums, and there are some physical constraints. But in many cases, they are sufficient for a large number of use cases.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, so what are some common uses of Apex? I'm going to show you exactly spreadsheet replacement, and we see this happen internally at Oracle all the time. I have bolded opportunistic apps simply because opportunistic apps, they have become very relevant during this pandemic. That, opportunistic apps are those for which there are loose requirements and immediate need that they have to be up yesterday. We were talking with a customer who they were deploying hospital beds in a tent and managing the patients via spreadsheets. And I think this pandemic highlighted the value and the necessity for opportunistic apps, that very often people don't necessarily have the opportunity to write a functional specification and a design specification and have 6 months to actually build and deploy something. Apex is commonly used for application modernization. If you have an Access app or Power Builder app, or even people who want to put a new UI on top of eBusiness Suite, they do this with Apex, and there's been huge traction in the Oracle Forms developer community for Apex. And I firmly believe that Apex is an ideal destination for Oracle Forms developers because they don't need to become full stack wizards. They can not only preserve their investment in database development, database application logic, database objects, but all they need to know is a little bit of SQL, and they can build beautiful apps on top of that. And let me get into a demonstration. So the one thing I'm going to show you is, again, if you're in the Apex community, I'm sure you've seen this before. But I want to take a spreadsheet, as we see here, and I wish to put this data in an Oracle database somewhere and build an Apex UI on top of it. And I'll point out that when people look at spreadsheets, I mean, people build very sophisticated applications in spreadsheets as well. They have multiple tabs, they have formulas, they have all sorts of graphics. And in this case, I'm talking rows of data. I want to take these rows of data, this is a tracker, and I want to create a web application on top of this, okay? So I'm actually using my free autonomous database. So if you go to oracle.com/free, you can sign up for the always free Oracle Cloud, and I'm using my Apex on my free autonomous database here. And I have a workspace called DB Cloud, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an application on this. So when I log into Apex, just a couple things. There's an application gallery where I can install sample or productivity apps. I don't have to know anything about SQL or Apex. You know, just this is akin to installing an app on your iPhone. I have SQL Workshop, which lets me load data, unload data, build database objects, run arbitrary SQL commands. But then Apex is all about building applications. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the application builder, and I want to create a new app. And I'm going to create this application from a file. As you see, we can support CSV, native Excel, XML, JSON. In the data loading section in SQL Workshop, if you're running this on Autonomous Database, you can even load files from Object Store. And these files could be Avro or Parquet format. In this case, I'm just going to have a native Excel file, okay? So I'm going to choose from a file, and I'm going to drag and drop this file, okay? So what we do is we parse this data. We give you a preview of this data. I'm going to provide a name for my table, and I'm going to say load data. So what we do on the back end is we actually run the DDL to create this table and then insert these rows. And it's a relatively small table in this case. And then I click create application because now I want to create an application on this table. And here I am in the wizard of Apex, and you can see that we have predefined a number of pages already. I might do some customization here. There's a included with Apex is something called themes, and they are effectively a collection of templates to style your application. You can effectively create an application that looks and feels like your corporate look and feel, but in this case, I'm going to use these out of the box for right now. I'm going to check this thing called application features, and I'm going to hit create application. And one misconception about Apex is that it's a code generator. Like behind the scenes, we're generating code, and in fact, we're not. Apex is a metadata-driven engine, and so when we created our application right there, effectively we were defining in the Apex catalog in the database the definition of our application. And I've not written a line of code yet, and I'm at 28 pages. And I'm going to run my application right now. So I will log in with the same credentials as my access to the Apex workspace, but please understand that we have completely abstracted how one authenticates to the application definition. So this authentication could be a database, it could be LDAP, it could be generic OpenID Connect, OAuth 2, HTTP header variable, we don't care. Just by default, though, it uses the same credentials I use to log into my workspace. And so here I am, and there are a number of pages here. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this thing called a dashboard. And this is our best guess at what would be interesting columns for us to dashboard. But behind the scenes here, these are just SQL queries that you can modify. It's easier to edit something that's existing rather than start from scratch. So we have this dashboard here. There is calendar-related data. So there's date-related data. So we created a calendar component on this. We also created a page for an interactive report, and this is a report and form. So everything I have here is completely editable, right? Also, we recognize the data type. So obviously, dates are dates, numbers are right-aligned numbers. And in this report, I can do easy filtering. I could search for any row that contains Apex, or do I have Excel in here? Yeah, Excel. If I wanted to filter by a specific column. Oh, and I should point out, at this point, this isn't Joel the developer. This is Joel the end user. I'm running this app now, right? I could click on a column heading and filter by a distinct value presented here. I could even do a bit more sophisticated filtering. Let's say I wanted to filter where end date is in the next 60 days. So your end user, they don't have to understand SQL to be able to do filtering here. And you can get really sophisticated with the type of actions you can take in an interactive report. So for example, I'll group by project. I'll nuke my end date column. I don't care to see that. Let's say I wish to sort by start date. And I could even do a little highlight rule here if I wanted, right? I'll say, I want you to put some special presentation here in the report when the budget, let's say, is greater than or equal to 600. And here's the real power, is now every end user can save this custom view of the data. As I often say, you can have 1,000 different users with 1,000 different views of this data. And all you, the end developer, have to do is put an interactive report on a table or a query, anything you could express in SQL here. So the next time I come in, here's the report as the developer intended, and here's my own custom view of this data. I should point out, I can even come back full circle. So this data is in an Oracle database, and now I can download it to HTML or CSV. In the next release of Apex, we have even native Excel. And now I've come all the way out. I've put it in an Oracle database, and now I've brought it back out into a spreadsheet here. I can even do basic charting in an interactive report. So let's say I wish to do a pie chart here by project and count. And I can save this as well. I'll say this is a named report, and I'll call this Joel chart 1. And understand that you, the developer, you could create a number of pre-canned reports that everyone sees. You know, think of financial results, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. So you can have all of these reports that everyone sees, and still the end users can create their own custom reports, their own custom views of this data as well. An elegant feature that we have in Apex is something called faceted search. Because if you look at that interactive report, that's a bit, for some people, for end users, sometimes it's a bit complicated. It's effectively a mini report writer. But what we tried to do with faceted search is bring the ease of use of data filtering that you see on commercial websites to business applications. And notice that on a faceted search, I still have a complete editable form and report here. But because we're in the database, we know about your data. We know about the cardinality of data. We know the data distribution, and we can make very intelligent guesses for you as to what would be appropriate facets for your report. So now I'm able to easily go through and filter this data in real time. And you can have a number of customized facets. You could have facets dependent upon one another. So, right, until I hit for shoes, right, men's or women's, I'm not going to show brand until that's selected. The other thing I wanted to show is that what I'm running on Oracle Cloud today is Apex 20.1. And in the next release of Apex, we have brought this, we have completed the vision of faceted search. Because when you look at faceted search, it's great to do this with 73 rows or you know, a small number of rows that I can whittle this down to a small number. But very often when I want to do data reporting, if I'm doing this against millions of rows and I bring my set down to 100,000, it's meaningless unless I can actually visualize it. And in Apex 20.2, and I'm showing this on apex.oracle.com today, we have native charting as well. And so this version is coming to Autonomous Database very soon. So you, the end developer, all you have to do is, again, put a report, specify a table or SQL query, put a faceted search report on it, and you get native charting out of the box. And I should point out, I created a second one here because by default, we support charting via pop-up, but you can also specify a region on the page. And if you wanted to compose multiple charts here, you get this out of the box. It's trivial to do. And so think of enterprise dashboards that it's trivial to employ on top of anything you can express in SQL. The other last thing I wanted to show of this application is when I checked that features checkbox in the Create App Wizard, I got all these additional application features. And if I go into the administration section, we've built in access control. You can employ your own corporate-wide access control if you wish. You can use this in your Apex app, but especially for departmental uses or small and medium businesses, they don't have any enterprise access control provider. And so we include this out of the box in Apex if you wish. But what's great is now I can control who can access this app, who can edit data, and who might be read-only. And I also get built-in metrics here. And this is something that you're not going to get with a spreadsheet, knowing who accessed this. So I can see easily who accessed this, at what time of day, what pages were most frequently accessed, which pages are slow, which pages are fast. And I get all this great information out of the box. And I get auditing on this as well. Within Apex, I showed you how I could choose my particular theme style, and I can change this at will. I don't have to know any CSS or HTML. And the last benefit here, everything that we've just built right now is responsive out of the box. So it looks great on my smartphone, looks great on my tablet, and all I need to know is really a little bit of SQL. Okay, Matthew, any questions before I move on?
There is a question, but I'm going to save it to the end.
Okay, great.
It's kind of a broad. It's an excellent question from a partner, but it's kind of broad. So I don't want to disrupt your flow.
Okay, no worries. I want to make sure we address it though. Thanks. So let's focus a little bit on real world usage. And I talked about how really low code application development and Apex, they have really been elevated in the era of this pandemic, right? The need for opportunistic applications to be able to build quickly and deliver applications quickly that doesn't require manual coding. And if you go to the external website, apex.world, which this isn't something that Oracle runs, this is actually run by the Apex community. And if you click a tab there, the COVID-19 apps, you'll get a great listing of all the uses of Apex from the wonderful Apex community around the globe, how they have used Apex to assist providing solutions during this pandemic. I am very proud of the community and of all of the solutions that have been created. I talked a bit earlier about the always free Oracle Cloud, and if you go to oracle.com/free, you get more than just an autonomous database. So it's a 1.0 CPU and 20 gigabytes of storage. You can create up to 2 autonomous databases. And you might look at this and say, what could you possibly do with the always free Oracle Cloud? Well, there's a partner/customer of ours. And if you're in the Oracle database community, you'll know Heli Helskiaho. And she and her team developed an application to track the pandemic in Finland. And this is a fascinating solution because it went from people would go to a blog and record where someone was reported to have coronavirus. And they quickly outgrew the blog to then this was being managed in a spreadsheet. And then, of course, as we're just talking today, it's impossible to share this and to let people contribute to this if one person's managing this in a spreadsheet. To then they have rolled out an application using Apex on the always free Oracle Cloud today at this web address. And this is for people to report where they've encountered someone with coronavirus, and for now others throughout the entire country of Finland to be able to view this data and determine if they were in the vicinity at the time. And just last week, there was Javed Mohammed from Oracle. He conducted a brief interview of Heli, and she gave a great background on the need and the application that they've built. And if you click that or scan that QR code, you can get this interview. I also talked about the always free database, the on-premises version of the database, and there were some physical limitations here. I think it's 12 gigabytes of data, and I think it can address one CPU. But still, for many application use cases, this is an ideal environment and 100% free. And there's a Canadian customer, MindSense, where they have built a solution to help mining more sustainable rather than discard material. They're able to use a process to scan the amount of the quality of data and the quality of, I would say, contents of a scoopful of dirt, and be able to determine if this is worthwhile or not worthwhile, rather than in the past they would just simply discard this. And what's fascinating is this customer, they're using autonomous data warehouse and IoT to collect all this information in real time. But it's also important to note that they have a canned solution inside these big diggers running an Apex app on XE, resident in these machines. And if you also scan that QR code, you can get more background on this customer. A couple other real world use cases, and these are largely on premises. So there is one of our favorite customers, National Health Service York. They use an Oracle database to collect information about patients in the hospital, whether it be blood sugar or blood pressure or weight or condition. And you might look at this screen here and think that this looks like Visual Basic from the 90s. But in fact, the reason why these are so prominent is they use Apex to surface this data at nurse stations throughout the hospital. So the data needs to be very much high contrast. And this is a great case of them collecting this information in an Oracle database and putting a very elegant UI in Apex on top of it. Another customer, and this is in Abu Dhabi, the Vocational Education and Training Institute. They offer courses. And people would register for courses via a spreadsheet, and then they would manage this information in a spreadsheet. And this is just a simple application, one for the customer facing, so they can do the registration. And then on the back end, they would actually manage this information. And they've conducted more than 14,000 course registrations through this simple Apex application. But it's another great case of replacing a very manual, inefficient spreadsheet process with Apex. And then I like sometimes how this data and these customer successes really find us. So Michelle Hardwick, who is a instructor at Salt Lake Community College, she posted on Twitter how they were rolling out their new faculty dashboard to more than 3,000 employees, 3,000 faculty that they've built on top of Oracle Database and Apex. And what's great about this is this really shows the combination of beautiful visualizations that you can get out of Apex, and also capitalizing on the power you get from the Oracle database. So they were using analytics here, and an example here in the bottom right is they wanted to visualize the correlation between the courses, the grades that one would get during a term, and how closely that correlates to their final grade. And what's perfect about this is there's all this wonderful analytical functionality in the Oracle database that you can harness via SQL, and you can put a very elegant UI in Apex on top of it. I think one of the greatest success stories for Apex is actually at Oracle. There are thousands of Apex applications throughout the company, used by virtually every line of business. A couple here, this in the upper left, this global immigration system back in the days when people could actually travel for business. If you wanted to go to a different country, you had to come to this application, enter your information. Someone from within Oracle would review it, and then they would assess what type of visa you need, what type of letter you need from the government or some official. And it would facilitate this type of process. If you want to book a room at Oracle, again, back when offices were open globally, you would come to an Apex application. What I'll also point out here is that there's a couple applications here, this global immigration one and this telecom billing report. So I manage a number of people, and they have cell phones for Oracle, and I get a review on a monthly basis what their, how this money is being spent. And they push this information into an Oracle database, and then I get a view of this information in this, basically this real-time report. But the thing I want to point out about these two applications, and no offense to the authors, is these applications look like they were written, I don't know, maybe in 2008. It's a very dated look and feel, but understand that they still run today. This is probably 12 years later. They still run on the latest browsers, and they're still in use at Oracle today. And what I'm trying to convey here is that we spend a lot of time and money and effort in ensuring that the applications that someone wrote a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years ago look and feel and run exactly as they did when it was first created. And I think that's very difficult to achieve with any technology. So some other decent examples that how we use Apex inside Oracle. If you wanted to engage our payroll department, and you can imagine there are regional payroll departments as well as shared services that effectively assist the entire company, you had to send an email to a mailing list. So someone had to respond to the mail, understand what category this was, try to assign this to the right organization. And it isn't a spreadsheet case, but as well, it is an inefficient use of time and money and resources. And so what the actual payroll department did is they wrote an Apex application, so then now anyone in the company can come along, submit a request to payroll, and then they can triage it and assign it and track progress and track what was closed all through an application. And probably one of my favorite examples of applications inside Oracle is something called the Global Holiday Calendar. And in the old days at Oracle, if one wanted to find the holidays for a given country at Oracle, you had to access our internal HR website. You had to go to a web page and either find a specific region. You would go to EMEA and then drill down to Spain, for example, and then there would be a listing of the holidays. And likewise, if you wanted to do it for the United States, same process. Go back up, find North America, drill down to United States. And someone inside Oracle took this information, and we have an internal corporate instance of Apex, and they created roughly a 2-table solution, inserted this data, and provided this to the entire company. And as you can see, you can do much more efficient things and more interesting things with this. You can find out on a given date which countries have this in common as a holiday. You can compare holidays across countries. And the beautiful thing about this is this application was written by a lady in HR who is not a classically trained computer scientist. And when we talk about low-code solutions, really broadening the base of those who can contribute applications to an enterprise, this is a shining example of that. And also I want people to note that you don't have to build an ERP system to have dramatic impact on an organization. This is, to this day, what this lady in HR wrote. This is the de facto a listing of holidays throughout the entire company. So how is Apex used internally at Oracle? I always say Oracle is a business like every other business. We have finance and HR and legal and real estate and facilities. And even at Oracle, IT cannot solve it all. We're also a SaaS company. We run our ERP. We run our HCM. And lines of business are always going to have specific needs that cannot necessarily be met by a COT system or a SaaS solution. And what we can see here is other than with the exception of 2 applications on this list, which our team wrote, everything was written by the respective lines of business at Oracle. So let me summarize here, and then I'll open it up to questions. Part of my summary. This is a picture I took at Oracle Open World back in 2019 in London. And this is from one of my favorite partners, Explorer. And I love their tagline of "We develop cloud-ready applications." And I want people to note that Apex, since its genesis, has been browser-based, hosted, multi-tenant. The developer experience and the runtime experience that you have on premises is virtually identical to what it is in the cloud. And so the applications that one builds today on premises, you are completely setting yourself up for, if your future state is to be cloud, it's a perfect avenue to get there. Because like I said, the experience is identical. Apex is an industry-leading low-code app dev platform. It is the most popular enterprise low-code platform on the market. There are more than 500,000 developers and more than 50,000 customers who use Apex today. It's super easy to learn and get started. We have a number of learning materials and resources for anyone to learn. I didn't necessarily focus on REST, and I probably should have, but understand that if you know a little bit of SQL, you can flourish in Apex. And the solutions that you build in Apex, the data doesn't necessarily need to be co-located with Apex. The data and objects don't need to be right there in the same database. You can easily create reports and forms and charts against data which is accessed entirely over REST. And as I said, this is included with all Oracle databases anywhere, and like I demonstrated, also part of the always free Oracle Cloud. If you have questions about Apex, I have our whole community section listed here. So if you want to find hosting providers or books or success stories or consulting companies, it's all here at apex.oracle.com/community. And if you have any questions about Apex or where to get started, if you go to apex.oracle.com, and I'll show this right here. If you go to apex.oracle.com and you click the little hamburger menu in the upper left, then hopefully we have captured everything that you could ever want to know about Apex here. And I think that that's it. And I'll open it up to any questions, but I'll say that Apex has one of the most passionate developer communities, certainly at Oracle, if not on the planet. And I encourage you to join us. And Matthew, I'll gladly take the questions now.
Very good. Thank you. That was an outstanding talk, very helpful. So we have 2 questions that are outstanding. One, the first is from Sven Weller, who is an Oracle partner, and he's looking for different ways to sell develop Apex apps for his customers in the cloud, especially if the customer is a small business division of a larger company. So the 2 strategies are either the customer owns the cloud, the partner helps them set it up and administrate it, or the partner delivers, owns the cloud and then they administrate it. Customer only has access to the app. And then he has a bit of there's a more detailed question about how to separate out payments and stuff. And I'm wondering if we should take that offline. But basically, do you have any thoughts on, should partners, deploying Apex in either of 2 ways?
So I have an answer for this, but I think that's very generic, right? So I'm wondering how you would answer that, Matthew.
That's a good question.
It's not really an Apex question, right?
Right, correct. So, yeah, I think, it really just comes down to meet your customers where they're at. And so I think you're going to want to be able to do both, and you can do both with Apex. The specific, there's a sort of a fine-grained question about payments. So let's do the following. We could take that offline. You can reach out to Joel or I or the developer community. What's the best way to handle that, Joel?
Okay, well, in this case, we know Sven. He's a longtime Apex
Ah.
customer. He's one of those ringers who's joined here. So we know how to get hold of Sven. So I think it's a
Okay,
funny
very
question.
good.
But you know what I will tell you, and this should be so I have an opinion on this. Is I think in general, if you were a partner, I think the service itself should be held in the tenancy of the customer and not necessarily the partner, because there was another a customer who was working with some a data provider, right? Who the provider procured the tenancy on Oracle Cloud, and then this customer of ours basically wanted to no longer do business with this partner that wasn't getting a proper service from them, and it became really challenging to shift tenancy from one customer to another because they're physically distinct. So I think in most cases the customer should own the data and own the service, and the partner assists with that. In terms of our future vision for Oracle Apex and Oracle Cloud is eventually we want to get to the point where partners can host their specific solutions on the Oracle marketplace. And a customer comes along and says, hey, I would like Sven's nifty ERP system. Give me one of those. And underneath the hood, it will provision the underlying cloud service. It will install Sven's ERP system there and present a console to the customer. So they don't even know, is it Apex back there? Is it database cloud? Doesn't matter. And that's ultimately our goal, to grow the number of Apex applications that one can offer on the Oracle Marketplace.
So that's an excellent point. So you can essentially build SaaS applications leveraging Apex. I mean, it seems obvious now, but I hadn't really quite thought about that. But
yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Next question.
Sorry.
Go ahead if you have.
Sorry, Matthew. Sven, you know how to get hold of us, okay? So if we didn't answer your question, let me know, okay? Sorry,
very good. Yep. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. It's a security question. Curious to know what future development plans are for the application in regards to security. From a database perspective, Apex has multiple object privileges granted to public, which from a security perspective is flagged as a vulnerability issue.
Apex is granted privileges on public. No, I disagree. Apex itself does not rely upon any public privileges. We do rely upon specific grants to sys-owned objects, right? Like DBMS Lob will grant privileges to sys DBMS Lob. I think in the old days, in earlier versions of Apex, this was a problem because very often, like in the DoD space, they had some regulations that say remove all privileges from public, and it effectively would break Apex. And that's why the Apex installation today has specific grants on sys-owned objects and relies nothing upon public. So if you have additional questions, feel free to ask it in the Q&A, but I'm almost certain Apex no longer requires any privileges from public.
Well, and to the earlier part of your talk, you also talked about authentication, and unlike spreadsheets, you can control and define who is allowed to access and how they're allowed to access. You can audit that. You can do all the power of the database. You can leverage in that context.
Yeah, but I understand the nature of their question. What they're saying is that this is beneath that. They're saying the underlying Apex installation violates some security requirement they have, and that it relies upon privileges being granted to public, and Apex should no longer have any dependency upon privileges granted to public. And if it does today, if you prove me wrong, then that's a bug in Apex and we need to fix it. But we spend a lot of time ensuring that. Right. Like I said, in DoD, they have this thing called STIGs, and they, to harden your database, one of the things they say is remove all privileges granted to public. And so these are like commonly accessed PL SQL packages like DBMS Lob. And we have specific grants to Apex for this. I hope I understood.
Okay, very good. Yep, very good. Oh, I see. And so the anonymous attendee added that it might be late, that might have been an older version or something. And then also they're on STIG requirements for DoD. So
Okay. Yeah.
I have which are involved. Jay, I have a question. This is kind of a maybe higher level question, but what's like some of the most interesting apps you've seen? Maybe ones where we can't tell publicly who the customer is, but are there Apex apps that have surprised you? What people have been doing?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. Well, I mean, Apex is used. Yeah, that puts me in a hard spot. So yeah, there are some interesting use cases of Apex. It's used throughout the government defense industry worldwide by countless agencies. It's used in the intelligence sector a lot. I would say even if you want to look at, go to covid19.oracle.com. That's an application that we wrote, really a set of applications we wrote in a matter of a couple weeks to help track the efficacy of the coronavirus treatments. Right. So that's live today. I think in a case, well, I have a great example. Another one that there was a government agency that was running the e-business suite, and they wanted to collect information about their employees about diversity and disability. And this information was scattered in 3 separate areas of the e-business suite. And a partner wrote a simple UI that was mobile friendly, that showed a level of completeness. For an employee to go in, and they would, basically enter their information about diversity or disability. And on the back end, it would go and update the respective areas of e-business suite. And this was rolled out to more than 200,000 employees. So that's an interesting, interesting use case of Apex.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think the other thing that amazes me about Apex is that what you're really being able to do is it automates the level above the data analysis. So the GUI, the networking, the what used to be like middleware, et cetera, that's all essentially automatically generated for you based upon the tool. And then, you can access that SQL, the data underneath by a SQL and leverage it. So it's automating a big chunk of what otherwise a full stack developer has to do for you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful about the word generate, because generate implies you're generating code, and we're not.
Oh, right. Yes.
It's a very simplistic architecture. There are few moving parts. I think that there is so much mundane activities in application development related to session state or scalability or efficient composition of SQL. Or web security or accessibility, right? I'm not saying those aren't important, but usually those are afterthoughts for people, but they're hugely important. And what I like to say with Apex is it takes care of a lot of the mundane mundane but necessary aspects of application development, and enables you to focus on basically solving your business problem. And there's so much that you can exploit in SQL, and just think of this as Apex is just the elegant UI on top of the database, and you can express yourself in SQL.
Yep, very good. So we're now we're a little past the top of the hour. We see a comment but not a question. Any further questions? Anybody wants to add to the Q&A? Well, otherwise, I will hand off. I will let Joel get the last word in, but first, I'll thank him for giving us an hour of his time to inspire us about Apex and give us ways to follow up. So, thank you, Joel.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Matthew, and thanks everyone for attending today. I hope it was worth your while. I wish all of you a safe day and a great day.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.